Hello Unicorn, I'm Tiffany, there's Angelica, and we are here with another video. So today, if you couldn't already tell, we're going to be talking about dragon, in particular dragon riders. Okay, I love dragons in my fantasy books. That is one of the 5 elements I look for before reading the synopsis of any fantasy book that I'm going to pick up. So if I hear that you have dragons, dragon mythology, dragon riders, you're 100% more likely I'm going to pick up that book because I love me some dragons. You can't go wrong with dragons. You can have good dragons, bad dragons, evil dragons, dragons that yam people up all the time. What do you expect? They're dragons, okay? They're supreme beings. I love them. I love them. I love them. So these are a couple of books that I have read that I just think you guys should read because they are gems in the Dragon Riders, Dragon Fantasy sphere. So without further any ado, let's get into the list. Now, the first book, I won't go into too much detail because I just did a whole review on it a couple of videos back. It's BATTLMAGE by Peter Flannery. Now, this is a standalone epic fantasy dragon rider book. And what I loved about this book the most is the history of the dragons that Peter Flannery put into it. The mysterious fact of why dragons turn black. Okay. And when that was revealed in the book, looking back on it, you could see the little juicy tidbits that he dropped in there. But looking back on it, I can appreciate it more. But when I was reading it, I was engrossed. Okay. And as I said, it's a standalone book, but don't let that fool you. Peter Flannery is releasing a prequel, sequel book coming up called Aquila. If you want to know more, check out my video. But this is a fantastic dragon and dragon rider story you can get stuck into. The next dragon rider books I want to talk about is the Songs of Chaos series by Michael J. Miller, by Michael R. Miller. And the first book in this series is Ascendant. So this is filled again with the familiar fantasy tropes you would find in an epic fantasy stories. It has that classical narrative that you would usually come across. However, it does have a hard magic system to follow. And that's what I enjoyed that as well as the dragons because I love learning about the magic systems. I love seeing how people can level up. It's like, it's not lit RPG-ish. It's not. But it has the similar rules to the magic. Like you get to one level, you learn more stuff, you go up in the system. So in this book, we follow a boy called Holt Cook, who is destined to follow in his father's footsteps and become a chef. Now, in this fantasy world, each of the names have a unique meaning. So if your name Cook, you're destined to become a cook. If your name, I don't know, Butcher, you're going to be a butcher. I kind of forget what all the surnames are, but that the names have the meaning. The names signify who you're going to be. So obviously, Holt Cook, he's destined to become a cook. He can't become a dragon rider. And that's all he wants to do. He wants to ride a dragon. But he ends up going to the place where the dragons hatch their eggs and they have to weed out the weakens. No, they have to weed out the weakening. They have to weed out the losers, the weak ones, okay? The ones that the dragons deem unfit. Because dragons in all their glory, they have to be magnificent. They can't have any faults, any problems. So when Holt is up in the dragon pit, there's an egg there that they said, oh, you need to throw that egg away. That egg has got a flaw. I can sense it. Let's not make it hatch. Let's not put shame on my name because you've got to respect us because we're dragons. And Holt was just like, this is my chance, okay? This is my moment. This is my opportunity. I'm going to take this egg and raise it as my own. And that's what he does. Long story short, let's call it up. Holt gets the egg. He raises it. Somebody comes to the village. They get destroyed. And the egg hatches, says Holt. The egg has the flaw, remember? What's wrong with this dragon? The dragon is blind. Okay? Now, if you look at all the other covers for the rest of the series, you can see that there's like a blindfold over the dragon, then there's a blindfold over Holt too. And what I love that this book does well, it's the representation of the disability of blindness. Just because this dragon is blind does not mean he's any less of a dragon. In fact, I think he's better because he's able to use his other senses. And in turn, Holt is able to use his other senses and to aid him. If you want to get into dragon fantasy, if you just want to dip your toes in and you're just new into the fantasy sphere, I would highly recommend this series. Even though it's got a hard magic system in it, it's not complex, it's not convoluted, it's easy to follow, and you're rooting for Holt to go up in the rank. You're rooting for him to gain the power. Him and what is the dragon's name? Me forget what the dragon is called, but both of them, they're leveling up. They level up together and you're going through them with that journey. And I just thought it was great. So Songs of Chaos, the first book, Ascendant, check it out, read it, it's great. So the next book on my list is Dragon Maid by M.L. Spencer. And when I tell you that I devoured this book, I devoured this book. The prose is spot on. It gets moving easily, flows. It gets you reading it instantly. I mean, makes you feel like you're actually watching a TV show or you're watching a film. Although this is a long book, although this book is hefty, I devoured it. Every sentence. I just couldn't put it down. Okay, so Dragon Maid is a classical fantasy book told with a modern voice. Again, there's a lot of tropes that you would usually find in classical fantasy. The coming of age, the magic school, the missing father, the training montages, the wise mentor of a harsh past. And then obviously what you always get in a classical fantasy, the all-encompassing, the impending tragic doom that's going to befall the whole of the realm. What this novel felt like when I was reading this was a love letter to classical fantasy, in particular dragon fantasy. I would have put this book on one of the best standalones. However, there is a sequel coming. And that is different than the BATTLMAGE, what I spoke of before. That is still a standalone because the next book in that series is actually called a prequel, and I think you can read them separate. You don't need to read them together. What I think M.L. Spencer is doing is a sequel, so it's no longer a standalone, so it can't be on my list. But again, I suggest you read it. If you love dragon fantasy, this is another one for you. So the next book I want to talk about, I believe I already discussed this in one of my videos, so if you want to check out more details where I went more in depth with this, check it out here. But we have got Jagged Claws by Melanie Ansley. Now, this book surprised me. I ain't never heard of this book. Looking at the cover is atrocious. The cover is absolutely terrible. I don't like it. I just wanted to read a dragon fantasy and this showed up on Kindle Unlimited. Let me tell you, I devoured this book. I ate it up. Okay, this book was fantastic. If you want an East Asian inspired dragon rider fantasy book, look no further than this book. Okay, this book cover does not do it justice. I read this book in one sitting. I ate it up. And I believe book 2 is coming out this month, the end of this month somewhere. So I was happy to see that because I still think about these characters. I want to know what happened next. And in this book, it's based, I believe, on Chinese, on real historical figures in Chinese history. Like the empress or the prince in this book was a real historical figure, and they take liberties on it. Now, I explained it more in this video, but what I liked about this is the story kept moving. It kept moving along. We have got the Jade Dragon that is unique. There's only one of its kind. And then we have a thief, the woman that's on the back, who was a thief, who is a thief, and she was going to steal from the royal family, from the royal possession. Obviously, this is right at the beginning. Something goes horribly wrong. Her people and her get caught, so she's running away. But she ends up stealing the dragon. She doesn't know it's a dragon. The dragon hatches in her hand and bonds with her. Not only do we have a thief that's become a dragon rider, but she is the only female to ever become a dragon rider, because it was believed that women, that dragons don't bond with women. That it just isn't possible. And then from there, it just goes on to what you would usually expect from this type of story. And what I felt when I was reading this, it kind of gave me Mulan vibes. Not only because it's Eastern Asian inspired, and it has the only female in a military setting. No. That was the only reason it was giving me Mulan vibes, let's be real. So the next book I want to talk about is The Seventh Cadence by Willborne. So in this book, the focus the focus itself is not on the dragons. The focus itself is on the three main characters. So we have Teely, a key part of knowledge. We have David, a seer trying to control his curse. And then we have Gabriel, the son of the king. Now, each of these characters have their own sections of the book, have their own POV, and each of their plot lines affect one another. It's what you would expect in a multi-POV story. However, why this is on my Dragon Riders list of gems is that we have ice-breathing dragons. I'm going to say it again for those who haven't heard me in the back. We have ice-breathing dragons, okay? And what Willborne does, that he blends magic with science and elemental. So each dragon has their own unique ability. So it's not just fire breathing. And I know we have all seen ice breathing dragons before, but all I've been reading lately is the typical westernization fire breathing dragons. This is elemental dragons. And although it's not heavily, I wouldn't say this is Dragon Riders in the sense as the other books on this list, but I do think the lore behind them, I do think the history of the world that Jim Willborne has created, and I feel like if there will be, when he releases next books in the series, I feel like the lore behind the dragons and the magic systems in this world will just become one of the most elite dragon fantasy books I have read. So this is a fantastic introduction to the book, and I suggest you give it a try to see if it's your type of flavor. And the last book that I have to mention for some of the most unique Dragon Rider fantasy in the self-publishing sphere is Iron Crown by L.L. Macrae. Now, what makes this book one of the most unique dragon books out there is that these dragons are not corporeal. These dragons are not the dragons that you see flying about. They don't have riders. These dragons are part of the fabric of existence themselves. They are spirits, okay? You have the dragon spirit of the forest, dragon spirits of city, of iron, of water. So they're not like flying out, burning your sheep and eating them. They are the people that control the environment around them. And I thought that is fantastic. Now, not only does L.L. Macrae take a unique look at dragons, a unique stance on them, the story in itself is fascinating. Hello unicorns, I lost my footage. I deleted the rest of the clip that I was editing, and I'm not in the mood to go back and re-record. So that was my last book for this video. Let me know if you have any other dragon books that you think is worth a mention, that is self-published, and I would definitely check it out. And thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll be back with another video shortly.